Is 1.19 just Caves and Cliffs Part 3 plus Mangrove? And yeah, it sort of is. If you take out the swamp features, then 1.19 is just features that were originally planned for the Caves and Cliffs update. However, there's an important clarification on that people are forgetting. Even though this is just a Deep Dark and Swamp update, the Swamp and Mangrove has a whole bunch of different features included inside of it, and also so does the Deep Dark. The original Deep Dark and Warden was exactly what we saw at Minecraft Live 2020, where it was going to be this small little cabin. Seriously, look at this structure. There were 2 barrels, some candles, a chest, and a furnace. That was going to be the entirety of the Deep Dark structure. The rest of it was just going to be this one very scary mob. And then the Warden, of course, originally looked like this. We also saw some new Warden concept art. He was going to be called the Shade and look like this, kind of more like a villager or an ally. Very interesting stuff. But yeah, the point is that the update has changed massively, and there is a lot that goes into this update, and the problem is not necessarily in what people are focusing on, which is that like, oh, it's just Caves and Cliffs Part 3. It's just features that they promised from before, and they can't even work out how to add new ones, because a lot of people are focused on the Birch Forest and the Firefly, which is where I'm going to bring into the second question, by the way, because did we really collectively care about Fireflies or Birch Forest? Birch Forest looked cool in one concept art, which is true, by the way, and Fireflies are a 2-pixel bug with no use now. Yeah, I think the Minecraft community, admittedly, this is the problem with having such a large community, it's going to seem hypocritical when the exact same community says, why are there so many useless mobs, and then turns around, and again, same community is saying, but why won't you add the useless mob to the game anyway? It would add ambiance. I mean, no, 2 pixels is not going to add any ambiance, but if you still believe that, then allow me to add some ambient, effects to this video. Wow, don't you feel immersed in it right now? Isn't this so impressive? Anyway, so I wanted to actually talk about the interesting part of this, which is, yeah, a lot of people are focused way too much on the Firefly, saying the wild update sucks and Mojang are lazy because they won't add this thing to the game, when, let's be honest, it's not a very important part of the game, especially with the thing being removed. I think the animal cruelty concern is a BS line. I think the Birch Forest not being added because they say it's not a commitment. I think there's a lot of things that are wrong with this, and I think the wild update as a whole is not necessarily the size that an update should be. However, the criticism of saying we want the Birch Forest and the Firefly is not the best of ones, and as Xilifan puts it, a Minecraft developer, a lot of Mojang employees have been thinking this, that like everyone's talking about these 2 ideas, and he's here looking at the million other post-it notes that didn't make it for the wild update. And then he says, that's the difficulty of sharing development information if just 2 ideas get shown from the many that gets so much discussion. And this is a really interesting point he's raising, that as a community, we latch onto the 2 ideas that they mentioned to us, rather than the million that they didn't. I've spoken to Minecraft developers who have mentioned like some of the coolest ideas that they've worked on that never made it to the part of development where they could share it with the public. Things like underwater monsters or under lava monsters for the Nether, right? That would make the Nether update so much better, you might say, but because we never heard about it, we never think of the update as being incomplete without it, whereas we do think of the wild update and we say, well, where is that Birch Forest they showed off? Which is why a lot of people are thinking about how much do you show. However, I would say in response to this, the wild update already looked like a genius masterclass in how much do you show. They showed us very little in that original trailer, and the actual criticism of this update is the fact that they showed very little and then delivered exactly very little. I think they, again, we don't give enough credit for stuff like the respawn compass or Swift Sneak wasn't mentioned at all. There are a couple of new things, but the overall picture is they showed a trailer that was kind of light on features compared to the last few, and then we seemingly have almost that number of features in the finalized update, despite that having been almost 9 months ago. And yeah, we're at the pre-release phase now. They're not adding new features. And so what happened here, the thing that should be looked at by anyone, again, whoever's in charge of making releases and keeping Minecraft hype going, because this is the biggest game on Earth, very important to keep the update hype cycle going around. The question should be like, okay, so how did we go from having this number of features plus a million more to having still this number of features? I think the fact that there are a million good ideas for this update, and very few of them seem to make it to the final version after October from last year, which is when we first saw the peak of updates, that is where I'm curious. I'm sure there's a ton of Mojang developers who would have loved to work on a brand new feature that they've had an idea for the last 9 months, and there's all these questions that I'm sure someone is asking internally. I hope someone is asking internally, yeah, I think overall the wild update is still still a very good update, but this, big backlash, this kind of big response shows that people feel that it's not what they expected. Speaking of not what they expected, HyperXX asks, are you going to play the Angry Birds X Minecraft crossover yet? And you know what, it's funny, because I heard about this in a tweet earlier this week, and I thought that's a funny joke, but then I checked, and it turns out, while I was flying, I was on my plane to America, it turns out they did release a Minecraft Angry Birds crossover. You're watching the trailer right now, and I don't... this used to be a joke, like, Minecraft Angry Birds, it's clearly going to happen, 2 big mobile games, but apparently it's real now too, and so gotta give some credit. The Marketplace team and their collabs, they are going through some great efforts. We have Minecraft Sonic, we have Minions, we have How to Train Your Dragon, and now we have Angry Birds too. I think, here's an interesting point, by the way, the updates, which are the free part of the game, right, we're just seeing slowly happen, when they happen, and they happen on the schedule that people feel like, whereas, the parts of the game they're selling, these DLCs, it is amazing the schedule they are working to, and the pace they're getting these things out there. It's really impressive, I do have to say. By the way, moved recording environment, sorry for that, I'm now in the car. As I mentioned, there's next question, which comes in from Kiwi Boy. Hey Toycat, what is your favourite feature in the Wild update, and what is a feature from the update you think needs refining? So, to answer this one, by the way, great question, I think that the feature that I like the most is the Warden. We shouldn't underappreciate just what a mega mammoth of a feature he really is, and how much goes into it. It's a very high effort feature that really is going to stick in Minecraft for a while, kind of changes the direction almost in a really impressive way, and a feature that I think needs refining is probably the frogs. The fact that frogs need to eat magma cubes is a really weird feature by itself. I think that's annoying for a lot of players. In fact, it's not just annoying for most players, it's annoying for creative players. It was actually confirmed this week that they're looking into making it so that magma cubes will spawn even on peaceful, so there's a way, and they just won't attack players, like with most hostile mobs. They're considering making all hostile mobs spawn on peaceful. There's a lot of things they have to think about, but there's, I think frogs are a very underthought feature. I mean, the fact that they eat magma cubes is kind of frustrating on a basis of, well, if I try to feed my frog magma, it's going to kill him, and so that's kind of weird by that. But it's also weird because, obviously it doesn't make too much sense on a gameplay level. It's going to be very frustrating having to get frogs to the nether or getting magma cubes to the... It's a weird process I'm not looking forward to at all, but, maybe that's not the important thing here. Speaking of important things here, let's move to the next question, which comes in from Nick Witkowski. By the way, this is Q&A Saturday, everyone's favourite weekly series, where I answer your questions. Also, it's sometimes not on a Saturday, and sometimes they're not questions, so really it should be called... Anyway, the next thing comes in from Nick, who says, do you think one day Bedrock and Java will become one entity? It'd be nice to play Bedrock with mods like Java, and get some nice shaders and stuff. I do think that, obviously, if they could make the 2 games into one, I think they would do that. However, I don't think that is going to happen because, the number of incentives they have into combining the 2 games, you wouldn't have to hire 2 entire separate sets of development staff for Java, for C hash, etc. You wouldn't have to deal with separate world types, separate changelog. There's so many things that are duplicated and are so much harder to run because of Java and Bedrock being separate. It would be nicer to run them together, but it's unlikely to happen. I think the best we'll get is some official version of the Geyser mod where you can play together with friends from the other version, even though, it's not. But I don't think we'll ever see, Bedrock players able to play Java maps from forever ago or downloading Java shaders, or Java players getting access to the same optimizations in terms of render distance and stuff that Bedrock players have. I think there are all sorts of things that just won't work across platforms, but ultimately it's much more about the player experience than it is about the technical side, and with a game as big as Minecraft, I guess they can afford to do it the way that they're doing it. Speaking of things they can afford to do, Mega Lucari for the win says, when will 1.19 come out? And to answer your question, since I would have spoken about it in my 1.19 pre-releasing video, but again, it decided to happen on my first day in a brand new place without a recording setup, so darn you Mojang, I feel like you watch out for when I'm going to be out of the country to make sure you can release the big news then. But more seriously, when is 1.19 coming out? Based on the fact that it's pre-released now, we're probably in the last month or so, the last stretch to go. What it actually takes from here to release is depending on how many bugs get ironed out, but at this point they've committed to not adding any new major features. Sometimes small features get slid in there, but the point of development now is to iron out bugs, get this update ready to release, and from the last pre-release, you can be pretty sure that there's a 2-week timer that starts to when it actually releases. Why is it 2 weeks? Because something that's roughly the time it takes to certify a major update for Minecraft Bedrock editions on all of the weird stores that it's on. A Minecraft Java update can release immediately. A Bedrock update has a slightly longer lead time, which is why there's pre-releases happening on Java right now, and on Bedrock we're just sat here kind of twiddling our thumbs. And yeah, so if we have to be more specific, I would say our previous guess of June 28 is looking pretty good. However, so here's something interesting, right? The next Minecraft Now happened in May. That's where we saw that previous Warden concept art, and in this show they have like a community based thing where they're looking for your ideas, and these have just been things like Warden, allies, frogs, etc. The next one is going to be the Wild update in general. Minecraft Now for June is going to be June 30th, so I imagine their current plan is to release somewhere before June 30, so that people have time to play around with it, to give out their art, etc. Show things they've already been working on. Maybe I'm wrong there. Maybe they just worked on a more compelling theme, so they'd get more community art. But yeah, that is exactly what we're looking at and talking about. Speaking, and by the way, so that means I think the most likely dates are June 28th, but I think it's probably even earlier than that. I think June 21st or June 14 could be more likely now, but again, that all depends on how pre-releases go. Even if they plan to release on June 14, they can't release an update if it's not ready to release. I mean, I guess you can release anything anytime, but they would probably prefer to delay something if there were major issues that they're running into. Who knows what will happen there? The only way to be sure is to follow over the next few weeks as these things change. The next update, by the way, question, update question, I'm sticking with that, comes in from Lance Roberts, who says, do you think there should be a future update that focuses more on customization, more world types like Amplified, Skyland, Custom Superflat, ability to choose your starting biome, toggles for things like maps, biomes, and structures? And yes, this is a great idea. Would it be amazing if Minecraft had a whole update that allowed you to customize the world you were in more? The update that changed the world just added new biomes. The update that changed the world should add more world customization options for weird Minecraft challenges. However, the reason we're not going to get a whole update on this, or as some people suggest, a whole update just for bug fixes, a whole update just for parity, or whatever else people suggest, the reason we won't see updates that focus on these kind of meta features is because what people expect in a Minecraft update is their new mob, they expect a new feature, they expect something new and fun to go and play around with. They can add other things on top of these, but you can't release a whole update that's just parity or bug fixes or, like fixing spelling errors or whatever dumb things, because major Minecraft version releases do have this sticking point in the community that people kind of expect and are used to. Speaking of things people expect and are used to, this next question is from WarioDude128, who says, so the first pre-release for 1.19 came out today, 2 days ago. Perhaps it's the result of the meeting Mojang had last week. They want to finish up what they have quickly and then move on, I guess. And again, this is the weirdest point of communication between the community and developers, because again, they tried to share something very brief, just saying there's not going to be a snapshot today because we're all having a meeting about something, and then they're upset because it's like, no, the meeting isn't something you can learn about. It's not something that's going to result in any news, and we have no idea why you expect that. Again, so interesting stuff there. But so I feel as though the meeting they had last week is probably related to future updates past this. I think they had already decided to make this pre-release before then, and the reason I think that is because, again, before a pre-release comes out, you see Minecraft start to roll down and roll back on new features they're adding. I imagine even though the pre-release is the official phase where they stop adding new features, they kind of need to get ready for the point where they stop adding new features. There's no point working on a brand new mob that will take a month to put together if you know you have a week until you can't add new features. So that is the reason why it's probably not true that it's related to the meeting. I imagine that meeting is still related to 1.20, 1.21, some future update, or it could just be general Minecraft stuff. They wanted to test the fire alarms or whatever. We'll never know for sure, I guess. Just like how we'll never know for sure if Cosmic Olofsky saying more old school style tutorials would be great, if they're being genuine or not. But based on the 8 upvotes, people actually did like the old style tutorial for I showed off how to make a 3x3 pickaxe using commands. A lot of people actually did really like that, and I was pleasantly surprised. I think it's fun that there's this space for just like simple tutorials showing off fun, quirky things that you can do in Minecraft, not assuming that you know everything there is to know in the game, but showing you sorts of things that you wouldn't have known were possible before. And so yeah, if you want to see more old style tutorials, we might just do that. And speaking of things we might just do, did you know YouTube added a super thanks option to a massive new batch of channels recently, and I was one of them. And so I went through and I saw, because no one should be super thanksing, right? And I've got 2 super thanks. One is from Salvatore Babone saying, "No one in the European Middle Ages ever tasted a potato," which, you know, I don't know the context behind this comment. And then I've got one from Cat Beanie saying thanks. So first of all, big thank you to Cat Beanie, always being super supportive despite being a moderator, so supports with the time and with the £2 here, so thank you very much. But the other thing to mention right here that I think is very important, a lot of YouTubers will say like, oh, you can super thanks now. No, you should not be super thanksing right now. It's a feature that YouTube's just rolled out more, but you shouldn't use it. There's a lot of reasons why I don't think it's necessarily a great idea. It doesn't seem to boost your comment at all. As you can see, neither of these have any extra likes or replies or anything, so it doesn't give the boost that you'd expect. It doesn't seem to highlight much more to the creator. I mean, I'm sure at some point you can scroll through and find these, but this is the first time I'm seeing these features. And finally, if you want to support a channel financially, doing it this way is less efficient than becoming a member, because becoming a member gives you access to perks for a month. And on the case of this channel, a lot of channels are the same, there are secret videos only for members. In this case, I uploaded a house tour recently, if you want to see where my house is currently at, alongside weird bloopers and a video of me bathing in Iron Brew. The reason that I don't make these videos public, because I'll eventually have a public house tour, is because, again, I feel as though having my feet and me bathing in an orange liquid on the internet maybe not ideal to be super public. Same with my house while it's in a in-progress state. I don't like showing it off, but if you want to look around it, you can see these terrible things by becoming a member. But whatever you do, just don't super thanks, and you'll be good, just like how I'm feeling pretty good right now. I'm about to drive. I'm currently in Oklahoma as I record this. I'm about to drive into Kansas and Colorado tomorrow. My road trip into states that I haven't been to and are very hard to get to by plane is going quite well. Thank you for asking, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Goodbye!